I want to say good evening to everyone who is under the sound of my voice, and welcome to this evening's Community Board 2 Executive Committee meeting. I am Lenny Singletary. I serve as Chair of Community Board 2, and our Vice Chairs are Barbara Zala-Gringer, who serves as Second Vice Chair, Mr. Leonard Jordan, who serves as First Vice Chair, and Ms. Jessica Thurston, who serves as our Secretary. As we go through the rest of tonight's meeting, the chairs who are present will introduce themselves, and you will get to know who they are. And I just ask if the chairs would also announce your vice chairs if you have one. With that, that is the welcome of the Community Board 2 and review of the meeting and protocols. I just remind everyone that you are being recorded, and tonight's meeting, as consistent with the other meetings, is an executive committee meeting. It is predominantly an environment where we hear from chairs and co-chairs. And in that process, if we need to hear from the community, we will do so at the conclusion of tonight's meeting. The next item on the agenda is roll call and leadership. I've already done that. The next item would be the adoption of this agenda. So are there any items on this agenda that need to be modified, or if there are any items that are missing and omitted that people would like to hear what's going on? Okay, great. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
Motion made.
Mr. Meyer, second. Mr. Gordon, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. The next item on the agenda are the minutes from February 23rd. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes of the executive committee from February 23rd? Are there any edits or modifications? Should you have any, please send them to the board office and we'll make the proper and necessary corrections, but it appears as if they seem to be fine as is. So with that, I entertain a motion to accept the minutes. Mr. Flournoy, second. Ms. Firebush, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the chairperson's report. So a couple of things. One, let me just update everyone where we are from a staffing perspective. We now officially have a district manager. And so I don't need to announce who that person is. She knows who she is. So that's official. The next hurdle, if you will, that we're trying to work through with our partner agencies is getting the assistant district manager job posted and the community associate jobs posted. We have those job descriptions already drafted. We are working with this current administration from Borough Hall to get this done. Things have been collaborative thus far, and I would anticipate that we would get this resolved very quickly. There have been some changes in personnel, and so that's had a slight delay to the process. But all in all, I remain confident that we will get this resolved shortly. And in my engagement with the representatives from Borough Hall, there's nothing but a willingness to make sure that Community Board 2 is running up to speed. So just continue to be patient. And I promise you, it should not take as long as it took to elect a district manager. So for those of you who remain optimistic, that's good news. The next item on the agenda would be, or is, as each of you are chairs or co-chairs, I know for some period of time, we have had different processes for how agenda items are set for the respective committee meetings. I do not want any chair in particular to think that he or she is not empowered to take control of your own respective agendas. What that means, if you have a desire that you want individuals to speak at your respective committees, if you want informational updates, what I ask that you do is be proactive. Send, for now, because the office is short staffed, an email to Tay and myself. Let us know who it is you have a desire to come speak at your respective committee meetings, and we will then proceed to get invitations out to those respective agencies. Additionally, if you would like the assistance of the office, myself and Taya, to brainstorm on developing an agenda, maybe go through a pipeline of a wish list of speakers, if you will, so that now we don't have to do this engagement monthly. We can have enough information that we can maybe plan out, ideally, the rest of the year, recognizing that typically we take July and August off for vacation. We can do that as well. So I want us to be really creative and proactive. For many of you who have been on the board for some time, you may recall that's how we used to do things. And so I don't want us to get away from that. Maybe we dust off the past to make forth a better future and see what we can do to assist there. So essentially the message is we want to be as collaborative and creative as possible to make sure that every committee has a robust agenda, not just those who have a whole host of items that are fed by partner agencies, and because there's information to be shared throughout the district. So that's my statement there. Under the category of updates, I have a few updates I want to just share with everyone. As I mentioned a while back, Tay and I had the opportunity to work with the mayor's community assistance unit, CAU, and we did a walkthrough on February 16th in the rain underneath the BQE. And this was not associated to the larger BQE project, but really just on the underpath where the corridor sits within Community Board 2, largely between what I'd say is Class and maybe Emerson Place, all the way through to Ashland. And in partnership with the mayor's community, CAU, we've been able to get some progress on a few items. The first item is the representative who was with us, Tony Herbert and Ray Carrero. I want to thank both of them for taking the time to come out. Have made contact and they've spoken with the state and the city Department of Transportation and the Department of Sanitation. And what we have in progress are the following. The State Department of Transportation has granted permission with EDC to paint over the graffiti that's on the various pillars underneath that corridor I just laid out. State DOT will provide the paint to one of our stakeholder groups, our Park Friends Group. That's what they call it. They call it the Park Friends Group. State DOT has agreed to provide that paint, which allows the stakeholder group to try to maintain that once the graffiti has been removed, which I think is a good example of a good partnership between a community and elected officials and municipal partnership. I think that's a fantastic model. The Myrtle Avenue bid will hold the physical supplies for the Friends Group. So instead of having to worry about where will these supplies be held, the bid has agreed to do so, which again, just speaks to the partnership that exists within our district. And then last but not least, CAU was in discussion with sanitation to address the alternate side of street parking hours. As I mentioned to you in a previous meeting, the hours were adjusted largely when the major renovations were taking place on the BQE a few years back. And no one ever just took the time to adjust those parking regulations. So now they're going to be adjusted. Well, let me not say that. I hope they're going to be adjusted, but at least we know an effort is underway to help get that relief to members of the community. So I think all in all, good news there. I like the fact that there's a collaboration at both the city and state level, which is needed for the success of maintaining that corridor, which is a good thing. The next item I want to report on is related to the CAU. There was an initiative called the Neighborhood Support Teams, more commonly referred to as NST. And it is a mayoral task force that is convened to address quality of life issues within the confines of certain geographical areas. And they require a coordinated interagency approach. This program, for some of you who may recall, this is not necessarily a new program. This program was in existence in 2017 through 2019, and has been relaunched with new guidelines. This would be a combination or coordination of community boards, council districts, business improvement districts are all eligible to participate in this process. And there are 3 selected applicants will be assigned to an NST for a year to create and execute on ideas and action plans to establish a sustainable framework and continue to have that partnership with city agencies. So that information will be, that information is due May 15th. And I'd ask that everyone who has some interest, please work with the board office and the information that Taya has shown on the board. And we would then have an ability to see who has interest in those areas, and then try to work through a way that we can see the benefits of this partnership. So again, another great idea I think that's coming out of Borough Hall, City Hall, that we can work with to improve the quality of life issues within our district. Some additional updates, real brief, not going to go into all the detail, but around the idea of cannabis. So the State Office of Cannabis Management has provided some updates. The Brooklyn licensing process is currently only issuing conditional adult use retail dispensary licenses. So because the words I'm using here are conditional, that's an indication that probably a good percentage of what you see popping up around our community identified as smoke shops probably do not qualify under this category. And therefore, an enforcement effort or strategy is underway to help to see how you can address that. That being said, part of the challenge for Brooklyn itself is that it is Kings County, that is part of a lawsuit about issuing these adult retail use dispensaries, conditional adult retail use dispensary cards and licenses brought upon by a lawsuit that stems from a plaintiff who resides in Michigan. And so as a result of that lawsuit, the regions or the counties that are affected is Kings County, the Finger Lakes, Central New York, Western New York, and Mid-Hudson Valley. There's belief that this will be resolved soon, is the words that have been communicated, in which case there will be an opportunity for that process to exist in Brooklyn. I ask everyone to kind of stay aware, stay engaged and abreast of what's going on. And when we get this resolved, I think this naturally looks like a topic item that would either be under the purview of Mr. Flournoy's committee, which is Economic Development and Employment, and or some form of a joint collaboration with Mr. Smith's committee, Brandon Smith's committee, which is Health, Environment, and Social Services. So we'll wait to see what the outcome is. But I think this is something that those respective committees and quite frankly, our community might be engaged to understand. And then lastly, there is a process that the community board would tangentially partner with and engage with. For those of you who are looking for more information, we have a section maintained on our resource folder in our public drive. And so if you have any information, I would advise you to look there, or if you need any information, reach out to the board office. So that is a lengthy, for me, chairperson's report. And if there are questions, I will address them. And then I'll jump back because I do want to let Taya give her quasi district manager's report, which is something we haven't had on the agenda in such a long time. And so with that, let me pause and open it up to Ms. Thurston.
Thanks, Lenny. Also, district manager reports, like I haven't heard the phrase in forever.
I was going to do it on April Fool's Day, and I said, nah, let's do it today.
Yeah, because you'll confuse the person taking the minutes. So I just wanted to ask about the neighborhood support teams. And I looked at the 2019 report. So if I'm just understanding it correctly, is the idea that we could potentially, as CB2, make a suggestion about here's a neighborhood or part of our district that we suggest. Okay, so like you want folks to maybe contact you if they're like, I have an idea about X, Y, and Z, like maybe this is our application. Absolutely.
I want us to be collaborative. So I'm okay with us making recommendations. I think that's part of the purview of being board members.
Yeah.
If we know agencies or partner or stakeholder groups that want to make suggestions, let's help usher them in. I think the more, the better. What I've hate for us to do is not take full advantage of the program because we didn't have enough engagement. I didn't have over engagement and then make the hard decision of, oh, we have too much. So let's go with that methodology, and I think we'll be fine to qualify for the program.
Awesome. Thanks.
Are there any other questions from board members or committee members, chairs?
Yes, Yes, Lenny, just, mine's supposed to be a question, but referring back to your BQE walkthrough, you may also want to keep an eye out, or somebody may want to keep an eye out on that part of the BQE that's right by Atlantic Avenue, where you have sort of like a hilly area where there's grass, the grassy hilly area. I'm only bringing it to your attention because every now and then a person who wants a little shelter will use that area. If you know what I'm talking about, where the BQE continues past the,
So you're
past
talking
the
about
promenade. Yeah,
that's closer to what would be
yeah,
what used to be the old, I guess what really is close to the extension of Brooklyn Bridge Park, that further area down there.
yeah. Sort of down by Brooklyn Bridge Park,
Yeah.
but going past, and then there's a grassy area almost by Atlantic Avenue. And every now and then somebody may decide, and I've seen it, people may decide, oh, I need a place to stay.
Yeah. So
and they may want to include that.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was outside of the scope of what we did on the walkthrough, but it is good to have that reference, because now we will, that's another thing that Tay and I can work with, because this wasn't a limited event. The CAU is willing to come out as often as we need them. So this is, to make a sports analogy or the sports parlance, this is us getting points on the board. And so as we continue to move forward, we can get additional points on the board to better the community. So thank you for that.
This is a field goal, so it's
field goal, not a touchdown, but I'll take it. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so with that, let me pause and turn it over to Taya for her district manager report.
Chair Singletary, I am not prepared to give a full district manager's report this evening, but I can.
I understand full, I said the report. What you give is what you give, and nobody's measuring.
Everything's great. That's my report. I will also remind the chairs and co-chairs, because you're all here. Please remember, I'm going to be sending a courtesy early calendar invite this week for everyone to attend the Land Use Committee meeting on April 19th, Wednesday, April 19th, because, yes, Wednesday, April 19th, because we will have at least one and possibly two ULURP public hearings to start that meeting before the regular committee meeting starts. So just a reminder that a ULURP public hearing requires a quorum of the full board, not just a quorum of the committee. And it will be online, so we'll be able to ease back into that process. So please look for that calendar hold later this week.
Thank you, Taya. One other thing I want to just end with before we transition to the next item, which is committee chairperson reports. As I mentioned when I first took over as chair of Community Board 2, thank you to all of you who voted for me to be a part of it. I made it clear then that this would not be a seat I would be holding forever, right? I know some people have a strong affinity for the community board, and we applaud everyone for their efforts, and we need activism, but these are not Supreme Court seats. And so these are not lifetime seats. I too am thinking about what my succession plan looks like, or how do I step away at the right time. That being said, I'm going to have conversations with some of the chairs to engage whether you still want to serve in the role as chairs, right? I think it's fair to have those open conversations. Let's find out what the touch points are. And then let's go through a process of succession planning for both the chairs and vice chairs, because the vice chairs in many cases are equally important, if not more important, particularly when scheduling conflicts come up. And so you need a cohesive partnership. I am thankful and beyond words can express how happy I am to have each of you as colleagues. I think we've done a tremendous amount of work. And when you think about all of us, if not most of us, have been in place well before the pandemic. And we've done as much work, and we've continued to do great things within the district. And we've not really let that be a hindrance to us. And that was a life-changing moment, but we still continue to stay focused and do what we need to do and make the adjustments. And it's okay to just be tired. Sometimes you get tired of doing the work that was required of a chair and a co-chair. So at given times, I'm going to have conversations with the chairs, co-chairs. We'll talk about succession planning. We'll try to bring in new talent, new perspective, new thoughts. And that's the right thing for us to do. And I hold myself included in those conversations. And so that's no suggestion that I'm leaving now, but it is an indication I am thinking of it. So we should all get together and figure out the right way to do that succession plan. So with that, I want to say again, thank you to each of you. And now I'm going to turn it over to the next item on the agenda, which is a committee chairperson's report. We're going to start, that's item number 6 for those of you who are following along. And we'll start with the Economic Development and Employment Committee.
Thank you, Chair Secretary. Hi, my name is Bill Flynn. I'm the Chair of the Economic Development and Employment Committee. My co-chair is Denise Peterson, and my secretary is Catherine Gilman. At the next committee meeting, we're going to have the Ridgewood Bank is going to come back and give a detailed presentation about the Banking Development District application. The presentation they gave last month was not detailed enough for us to make a decision about that, so they're going to come back this month and give us some more detail. And Chair Secretary, it's very interesting that you brought up the cannabis issue, because that's going to be a topic that our committee is going to be discussing this month. That'll be April 4th. We've had 2 presentations about the cannabis industry in our committee, and over the weekend, I've noticed some things that were occurring that I think might be we should look into. There was actually a major opening of a cannabis dispensary on Smith Street, where a gathering of people were there, and they actually presented their own brand of cannabis. And being that cannabis dispensaries are not supposed to be opening at all, I find that very interesting. Okay, so obviously the community might want to take a look at this and actually start seeing what we can do about addressing these issues that are coming up in our district. In addition to that, I'm going to be reviewing the controller's economic and fiscal outlook. Specifically, I'm going to be looking at the New York labor markets and how we're doing across the board in our district and across in Brooklyn County, Kings County. I'm also going to have several meetings with the CLS in April, the Court Street Livingston Schermerhorn bid. And also, this is for the land use. You might be interested in this. A downtown Brooklyn Park board member has pieced together 15 lots in downtown Brooklyn, Al Lovitz. It's going to be 43,000 square feet, which will give them 516,000 square feet of buildable floor space. That might be something we want to take a look at in advance, because it seems like if you put together that many blocks, you're going to be doing some development. And if it is a development, it's going to be one of the largest buildings in downtown Brooklyn. Okay, so I just thought someone might want to take a look at that in advance. The Brooklyn Navy Yard on April 3rd is going to have training, a free computer numeric control training, and that'll be at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. And also City Bike is going to have online training for mechanics. It's going to be free training for people to work on City Bikes, and that's going to be April 4th. And this is interesting because this is something we've always been asking about in our committee. Alloy is going to be giving out free OSHA training for construction jobs in downtown Brooklyn. Anyone who's interested in that, and that'll be on the Alloy block in downtown Brooklyn, you can contact Elizabeth Graham, and her email is egraham@alloyllc.com. We've been asking for advance notice for individuals to have training so they can actually get these jobs, and currently they're offering that as we speak. So that's my report for right now. We'll get into more detail at the actual committee itself. And again, that committee meeting is going to be April 4th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next committee to report is Finance and Personnel.
Unmute. Thank you, Mr. Singletary. Good evening, everyone. My name is Leonard Jordan. I'm the chair of the Finance and Personnel Committee, and my vice chair is Mr. Brandon Smith. We met on March 23rd, and a couple of items I just want to mention to everyone. Our district manager, Ms. Mueller, had presented some expenditures for us for the office, because this is in order for the office to have full utilization and occupation. That is our plan. And the expenses were about $7,100, which we, everybody in the committee approved on. And this is will come out of the fiscal year 2023 budget. Mr. Singletary and Ms. Mueller have had extensive conversations with Borough Hall, the HR department in Borough Hall, as well as the Office of Management and Budget. We anticipate that we believe that we're close to having those postings for the assistant district manager as well as the community associate out in April of 2023. Now, as the reason why there's been some delays is that there's been a absence of personnel, rotation of personnel, both at Borough Hall as well as at OMB, for the people that have to be involved with the approvals, the approval process for these postings. But that's our anticipation, so we'll keep you updated as far as that's concerned. Also, we're in the process of putting together, and the committee will have a discussion and vote on it and we'll offer it to the full board for approval for our fiscal year 2024 budget, which starts on July 1st, 2023. So more to come as far as that's concerned. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is going to be April 27th. And then we have another meeting scheduled after that. We believe by the May board meeting that we'll be able to offer the fiscal year 2024 budget for approval by the full board. Also, I will be working with Ms. Mueller and we will be preparing interview and selection formats for the proposed candidates for those two positions that I mentioned before. There'll be the committee will present that to the committee. The committee will discuss it, and then we'll come out with a format that we're going to use for interviews. We want to be ready as soon as the posting goes out, and we have it up for the allotted amount of time or the appropriate amount of time that we'll be ready to do interviews as soon as possible and get those people on board to fill those positions. Mr. Smith also gave a short presentation on the HES committee, on the health fair that actually is involved with the HES committee has been involved with. He did have a invoice that was presented to the board and then to the Finance and Personnel Committee because of the fact that we don't have a vendor relationship with the party that's going to provide the chairs and the tables for the health committee. I'm sorry, for the health fair. The Friends of Brooklyn CB2, all right, has offered to pay the expense for that, which I think the total expense was $1,040, for which $840 has been dispersed already. And Ms. Smith will let us know if there's anything more. Now, some of you might not have heard of this. The Friends of CB2 is a not-for-profit that was started, I don't know, some years ago, I forget how many exactly, to help out with community needs for CB2 when CB2 was not able to, or either not can afford or not able to provide the funding for various activities in the community. So I just wanted to let everybody know about that. I think that's about it. Yeah, that's about it, Mr. Singletary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. I just want to modify one small point that Mr. Jordan made. When the Friends of CB2 was created, it was to assist CB2, period. So if there are places where we have shortfalls, that's a group that would be there to provide and close the gap. So I don't want anyone to think that it's solely for community funding events, but wherever CB2 has a shortfall, that group is there. Right. The good thing is we don't use it often. We hope not to use it often, but given the benefits of this program and the way we've been able to have at least what I think was a very successful first year, there's been enough interest to hope that we do it again. And then hopefully we'll take this on a case-by-case basis to see how we continue to move forward in the future. But Mr. Jordan, thank you for that report. The next committee to report is Health, Environment, and Social Services.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brandon Smith. I'm Chair of Health, Environment, Social Services. I'm honored to have as my co-chair, Ms. Nicole McKnight. We had a meeting back at the beginning of this month where we had a presentation from the New Directions Treatment Program. This is the third time in my memory that the New Directions Treatment Program has presented at the committee in the last 10 years. And it was notable because they were moving slightly away from us. They're moving over to 300 Flatbush Avenue from their current location on 500 Atlantic Avenue. They're a provider of mental health and substance abuse treatment, and they also provide a wide array of services ranging from art therapy, family therapy, anger management, trauma services, and they've been a really great resource in our community. I think it's also notable. One thing I immediately struck my memory about it is that I remember when December 2013, when they first came to our committee, there were numerous residents and people from the surrounding neighborhood who came out and expressed concern about the potential for another substance abuse mental health provider to come to the neighborhood there on Atlantic Avenue. And it was a controversial topic at the time, but when they moved to add mental health to the substance abuse provision 3 years later, nobody showed up and there had been no complaints. And now over their entire 10-year history, there's been not a single complaint but from anyone in the neighborhood about this provider. And they've done such wonderful service. You can think of how many hundreds of people they've served with valuable mental health and substance abuse treatments. They've been a real benefit to our community and will continue to be, just slightly further away over on Flatbush Avenue. So that was a nice presentation. And we also had an update on the health fair. And just to give everybody here a quick update on the health fair, we've been moving at really great pace along with our key partners, because it's not just the HES committee. We're partnering with the Parks Committee, who have had a number of different of their committee members participate, and people from other committees have participated too, as well as the Friends of Commodore Barry Park, who is our partner for the event, numerous other sponsors in the community, and we've had some very positive discussions with the Farragut Tenant Association as well. The health fair will be June 10th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. In the southeast corner of Fort Greene Park. And we'll be featuring a wider range of activities similar to what we did last year. In the planning process, we've created about 8 to 10 working groups of different board members who are focused on specific tasks like getting the right sound equipment, getting outreach to schools, getting the correct signage put together. And in the course of that, we're very close to finalizing our flyer, which is really great. And I want to thank Mr. Thomas Huji from the Parks Committee, who's put a lot of effort into that. And we have settled on a panel topic of mental health as it impacts maternal health. So some of the mental stressors that go into maternal health will be drawing on some of the same topics and points from last year's panel discussion, which focused exclusively on maternal health. And we'll also have an opportunity for the folks from the Mount Sinai prostate van to talk about the importance of regular screenings. So that will be a key element of the programming. So we have a lot of volunteers, and I really appreciate everybody's participation. And there are so many more updates I could give. The one thing I want to just ask for anyone who chairs a committee to do is, if you have folks who can just donate an hour or two on the day of the health fair, either from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. when we're setting up, or from 3 to 5 p.m. when we're in the process of breaking things down, or if they want to volunteer during the event. But the setup and the breakdown are really key, and we need people to help with this, because It is a task to set up and break down 40 tables and 120 chairs. That would be great. So if you know people on your committee who are interested in volunteering the day of, I would really appreciate it, and I know the rest of the folks who are volunteering would too. I'll leave it at that, but our next meeting will be on April 5th, and that's a wrap for my report.
Thank you, Brendan, and we look forward to a real equal, balanced collaboration between us and the Friends of Commodore Barry. So thank you for that update. Next committee to report is land use.
Thank you, Chair Lenny. This is the Landmark Land Use Committee. Dorothy Christophin is our co-chair, and she's been working hard to get us in from, especially on the Atlantic Avenue developments. And our secretary is Karen Johnson, who really, in addition to doing her work and raising her kids, has been our secretary and working hard to try to keep our minutes together. I am Carlton Gordon. We had a one at last week's committee meeting. We had one Landmarks Preservation Commission Certificate of Appropriateness for 64 South Portland Avenue. And we voted on it 11-0 to approve the application for windows, double hung windows in the face, at the facade, which we liked. In addition, we had extensive conversations regarding a presentation being made by the New York City Department of City Planning, which in turn regards the possible activities and future development of work and whatever between the Brooklyn Hospital Center and Long Island University. The two institutions they haven't approached us, but there is indication that they're interested in joint activity and development throughout the community. I would say the presentation and the coordination has been done by the New York City Department of City Planning, and the presentations have been made by City Planning. We did listen to a number of, I would say, presentations, but after the presentation, we took a lot of comments from many community members regarding it and regarding how it may affect the community as a whole. There's no proposal on the LIU Brooklyn Hospital matter yet. There's nothing on the table. This is all just preliminary at this point, and it's being coordinated by Department of City Planning, but they wanted to get community input and to get us to know that this is coming down the turnpike at some point. And I think that covers what we've done. And as you heard from Tia Mueller, I guess we'll have a couple of one or two, probably two ULURPs coming up in April, at our April meeting. And again, that covers everything that I have.
Thank you, Carlton.
Okay, thank you, Lynn.
Next committee to present Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Chair Singletary. And I'm sorry I was a couple minutes late this evening, but I was having Zoom problems. And as a result, I am on my phone rather than my computer. So I hope everyone can see and hear me. Our Parks meeting on March 20th included a presentation from the Friends of South Oxford Park. This Friends group was formed in 2007, right after the park was completed, and it was set up as a passive park, which meant no basketball courts, just kind of quiet activities. There are tennis courts included, and it really caters a lot to young children and to older adults. Now, the Friends of South Oxford Park, which was their presentation was led by the chair, Dwayne Broadnax, It's a particularly committed and vibrant friends group who are really outstanding stewards of this park. They open and close the park every day. Up until recently, they were opening it at 7 and closing it at dusk. So the hour of closure depends on the time of year. And since the park was established, pets were not permitted. This friends group, they've spoken to the Parks Committee a couple of times, focusing on the state of the turf, and we've been very supportive of it. As it is now, it poses a possible toxic danger to those who use it, and we have been supportive in seeking the Parks Department to address this issue. As I said, children use this, are on this, and parents are always concerned that the specks from the turf are affecting their children. So this time the friends were here because they're concerned that the Parks Department has put up signs in January without any notice, no prior notice to this friends group, changing the hours of the park to close at to be there open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and allowing dogs in the park. As to the turf, which I mentioned is in very poor condition to begin with, the dog's presence there is making things much worse when people do not pick up their dogs. It's really exacerbating the health issue there. So needless to say, our committee members were very concerned about this. This park is very near both Fort Greene and Kyler Gore. So in those parks, dogs have much more freedom here. Even one of the Friends members has a dog and never walks it in there. And not only are there dogs in there now, but they're off leash, as those pictures which the Friends group shared with us and you just saw indicate. So the committee voted 7 in favor, none against, and 1 abstention to ask the Parks Department to put back the no pet signage, put the hours back to 7 a.m. to dusk, and to notify the Friends group going forward of any changes that impact the operation of the park. And this issue will be brought for a vote before the full board in April. Also, I forgot to mention at the outset that our co-chair is Andrew Lastawecki and our terrific secretary is Thomas H. And our next meeting will be April 17th.
So
Thank
I'm a little confused. How is this going before the full board in April? We don't have an action item tonight.
Maybe Taya can answer that. Maybe I don't know if she didn't think we had to vote on it tonight, if we're going to vote on it at the full board.
Nothing
No.
go before the full board unless there's an action at the exec committee.
Okay, well,
My apologies. That was my oversight, Chair Zollinger.
okay,
No
so
problem.
does that mean we have to put it over till May then? Or can we amend the agenda? Or that's not possible because they didn't have a week's notice.
Well, unfortunately, a report wasn't submitted. So let's talk offline and we'll come up with a solution.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Yeah, we'll talk offline. We'll figure something out. Next committee to report is Transportation and Public Safety.
Good evening. My name is Sid Meyer. I'm the chair. The co-chair is Esther Blount. The minute taker and is John Quint. We had a lively meeting on March 16th. We did 2 major things. The first one was we went over the proposal to put the elevator in on at the Borough Hall station to make it handicap accessible after all these years. The presentation was detailed, and the station will remain open throughout. There may be some closures, some steps, but the elevator is in process and will begin to be placed. There'll be an elevator from the ground floor to the mezzanine, and then the mezzanine will have 2 elevators going to the part of the station. It won't be fully accessible yet because you have parts of the station that still some have elevators, some don't, but they're moving forward with this proposal. The second one that we went over was the open streets for the community board. We went over each one of the open street requests. There were numerous. The major discussions took place about Willoughby Avenue. At the board meeting, I announced that the DOT announced that they were going to follow our proposal for cutting back the hours on Willoughby Avenue. That turned out to be incorrect. It was a mistake by the Department of Transportation. It will remain it was shortened 1 block, but the 7 blocks will remain 24-hour, 7 days a week. They apologized for the mistake, which they announced to us 45 minutes before our meeting began. And we had continuing discussion, no votes, but we had continuing discussion of the open streets. The DOT announced that there will be a charrette and presentation on the Atlantic Avenue entrance exit to the BQE, with trying to make it more pedestrian, bicycle, and other friendly. I don't know if that date has been announced, but we will, when it is announced, we will make sure that everyone gets notified of it. Our next meeting is on April 20th. We look forward to seeing you there and having continuing discussions on areas of concern concerning transportation and public safety. We're going to try to do some more public safety issues. We've been doing a lot of transportation issues, and obviously transportation issues take a lot of time and a lot of effort and are very interesting, frankly. But we're going to try to expand it and get into some other areas besides just the transportation. I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone has, and thank you.
Thank you, Sid. Next committee to report, Youth Education and Cultural Affairs. I think Ms. Fibers had to drop off. And if Mr. Ferreira is comfortable, I know he played an active role in a voluntary capacity at the last meeting. I personally want to thank you, Nick, for doing so. And as a bit of a teaser, stay tuned for more about Nick.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Chair. Yes, I am here. I am prepared. As Chair Singletary said, Betty Feibush is the chair. She couldn't be here this evening, and she was unable to facilitate and lead our March 22nd meeting. So I did my best under the guidance and support of Taya. Thank you. We had 2 presentations that evening. First one from District 13. We had a Principal Bishop, and we also had a Miss Wallace Anderson, who is an attendance administrator. And they were presenting on District 13 chronic absenteeism. So we learned a good deal on chronic absenteeism, and happy to hear that apparently we are about meeting our goals in D13 here, even though, of course, there are some low numbers. So unfortunately, we are hitting about 37% of the students in the district are chronically absent. And so what that means is they are absent 10% or more of the school year. And that equates to basically 18 days or more of the school year of them being absent. And as you can imagine, being absent that much has a lot of impact on our young people, and such as by 3rd grade, it's impacting their reading. By 6th grade, there's noticeable impact to their academic progress. And then certainly by high school, completely off track, usually for graduation. So those are some of the impacts of chronic absenteeism. And so they were asking for our help and seeing how potentially we can support this. And some of the asks would be to I guess, leverage any influence we may have. Getting young people to school is not only of their own, right? Oftentimes there are issues with the home, the family, there are needs bigger than education. And so they were asking us maybe to bring together businesses, hospitals who can support maybe with helping any of the health needs that might be impacting young people, transportation issues, families, getting young people to school, funding celebrations for those that are successful and are closing that gap on chronic absenteeism. That's a big part of the work, is celebrating the success. And so if we can incentivize or help them fund some of those incentives, that was brought up. And very specifically, laundromats. So helping families to pay for cleaning uniforms, potentially, getting discounts from some laundromats. They had referenced, I think it was Clean Right, and that was quite far away. And so maybe they had success with a partnership there, but the community wasn't necessarily utilizing that. So they could use some help. And I'll end on, they presented an interesting intersectionality between their students and families' asthma rates, which is a big issue preventing young people from attending school, and their proximity to the BQE. So it was a really just amazing. They had this wonderful slide that hopefully they'll send us. Taya says they didn't, but it potentially could be a really great jumping off point for conversations between Hess Transportation, YECA, and then even the incentives with economic development. So it was a wonderful presentation. Secondly, we had a presentation from Pop-Up Forest about a wildflower campaign. And so each borough, apparently, there is a wildflower representing each borough. We can go online and vote for a wildflower to represent all of New York City. We could vote for Brooklyn only. We can go outside of our borough. It's up to you. And Brooklyn Bridge Park is I guess, the sort of sponsor of the Brooklyn part of this campaign. And lastly, we had our very own chair committee member, rather subcommittee member, Ella Scope, presented on library funding cuts, current, past, and future, and the impact of that on libraries and all they do for our communities, and asked us to support really a full board, I think, letter of library funding. Did I get that right, Taya?
A full letter. What is
a letter of support for libraries, and I'm unclear if it's to sort of restore funding or if it's just a general letter of support of funding libraries. Ellis is here. I don't know if she can clarify for us.
Alice, I'm happy to hear the intent of the initiative.
The intent is that there is a planned cut to library funding, and my intent was for us as a community board to speak against that and let our voice be heard. I know that there's lots of people already advocating for libraries, but I think that libraries are important to our community, and particularly when we look at what's going on in some of the other states. We want to be, I want to be clear about where I stand. So I asked my committee to consider that and to think about, like, whatever format the board uses, to come up with something that indicates our support for libraries and against budget cuts.
Okay, so that's helpful.
We were unanimously in support of whatever that looks like, Lenny.
Yeah, no, I'm glad Ellis took the initiative. I'm glad the committee responded the way they did. But if I recall correctly, and Taya helped me out, we've already done the support initiative, if you will, through our community and district needs statement. I believe there was a line in there that was strongly in support of the libraries. And so from a community board perspective, we have not changed that, nor have we taken that out. So I think in this context, that speaks sufficient for what Community Board 2 position is and where we would stand. I don't know that the letter of support from Community Board 2 does anything extra. If I could offer as another alternative to the advocacy that Ellis and the committee did, it may be more beneficial if everyone on the committee and even members of Community Board 2 chooses to do so, write an individual letter or initiate your own letters of support. Because in a context like this, while the changes thus far are still proposed, we don't know if they are or not, the advocacy right now would be helpful, but there's power in numbers. So the more people who promote that same belief as New Yorkers, as citizens, I think may have a greater impact. And what we can do from the board office is highlight again what our initiative was in the district and community needs statement in support of the library. And I think that collective effort may be more advantageous to the initiative that Ellis brought forth to the committee.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That wraps up our report. Our next meeting is April 26th. Thank you.
So Nick, I want to say thank you again. I'm not trying to single anyone out, but to volunteer in that manner the way you have, not as a chair or co-chair, is a testimony to your commitment to the board, and I appreciate you for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And Ellis, keep being you, don't change.
Please don't encourage that. You don't know what you're asking for.
I'm gonna stick with that and we'll see where it gets me. The next committee, actually, I think that's all the committees to report. Let me move on now to any other executive business. Are there any members of the executive committee that has any items that they want us to be aware of or things that we may have missed in tonight's agenda? Esther?
I was late, but I was wondering, have we heard about people that's going to be reappointed to the community board? I don't know.
No, actually, we haven't received that list yet. We're waiting to receive that list. I did have a conversation with council members and representatives from Borough Hall. So that list is active. I think the last meeting, council member Ressler shared that there was a significant amount of interest in people wanting to be a part of Community Board 2, which I think is a good thing. And so now Borough Hall and the respective council members are sorting through who those appointees are. And Tay and I are waiting that confirmation before we know who that final list is.
Danny, one thing, you've been around a while. I thought I was appointed by Eric Adams, and the borough president, I was always thought appoints people to the community board. Now it looks like Lincoln Resident and other people are doing it. Is that normal?
So here's how the process works. The process works like this. And I'm going to be specific about Community Board 2. The borough president gets an allocation of appointees. The representative of the 35th Councilmanic District gets an allocation of appointees, as does the council member for the 33rd Councilmanic, as does the representative for the 33rd Councilmanic District. That has always been the case. I mean, if I just give an example, I was, and I don't say this with any distinction because it's a little sad when you think about it, but I was the last appointee of James Davis. And so I came on the board because, quite frankly, James Davis got tired of me, may he rest in peace, tired of me coming to his office every day about an issue in the community. He said, man, I'm tired of you. You need to be on the community board. And we laughed it out, but that's how I got on. And then with his unfortunate transition, I then became an appointee of Borough Hall. So it is consistent that every community board has a fair representation from the council for those councilmanic districts that overlap the community board and the borough president for that respective borough. All right, Mr. Gordon? You're on mute, Carlton.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay.
Yep.
Just a little more information about the elevator being constructed at Borough Hall. That going down to the Lexington Avenue platform. I was just curious. I know there's one that goes down to the 7th Avenue platform.
This is in fact supposed to go down to Lexington Avenue platform.
Yeah, it is going down there. Okay, well, yeah, I saw some construction, but I wasn't quite sure. Okay, that's the one sort of like at the front by the, I guess, the old main entrance to Bar Hall.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, all right, thanks.
Sure. Any other questions from committee members? Barbara?
I was just going to, I was at that meeting. I seem to be the person most interested in it, but they haven't started the work yet. In May, starting in May, for 2 months, they're going to do asbestos. And then they start the process. Get how long it's going to take, but you know these things take a while.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee members? Okay, thank you. Next, we're going to move on to community forum. And here's where we're going to have members of the community. If you have any questions or any items that you'd like to highlight before the committee, please do so. And I also see that there are members of the community board who may not be members of the respective executive committee chairs and co-chairs. And so if you have an opportunity or something you'd like to share, this is a platform for you as well. I'd ask if you just raise your hand so we can acknowledge you and not, overlook anyone. Great. The next item on the agenda is motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Anybody abstaining? Get home safe, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.